What happens when a leader refuses to let his people be forgotten? President Ibrahim Traoré welcomed back young Burkinabé repatriated from the United States, promising them a future they had been denied for years. But this story isn't just about survival. It's about dignity, hope, and change. President Ibrahim Traoré sat in his office one morning reviewing reports when a messenger arrived with urgent news. The United States government had announced that it was repatriating several individuals, many of whom were originally from Burkina Faso. These young Burkinabé had left their homeland years ago in search of better opportunities, but now they were being sent back home. At first, the news seemed like just another consequence of the ever-changing global landscape. However, the more Ibrahim thought about it, the heavier his heart grew. These young people, who had once sought the promise of a better life, were now returning with no clear path forward, caught between two worlds. Many had faced discrimination, isolation, and economic hardship in the U.S. Some had found success, but many had been left behind, still chasing a dream that seemed out of reach. The U.S. government framed their return as a homecoming, a return to their roots. But for many, it felt like a quiet defeat, a reminder that they didn't belong there and weren't sure they belonged here either. As the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim understood what was at stake. He refused to see these returning citizens as failures. They were not statistics, they were his people. And he was not going to let them return to a country that offered them no hope or opportunity. To Ibrahim, these young people were not a burden. They were an asset. They returned with knowledge, experiences, and ideas shaped by their time abroad. They had seen other systems, other cultures. They had skills that could help transform Burkina Faso. Ibrahim saw their return as a chance, not just for reintegration, but for national rejuvenation. I will welcome them with open arms, Ibrahim resolved. We cannot allow our youth to be discarded by a broken system. We will turn this challenge into a victory for all of Africa. His mind raced with plans, education programs, job creation, mentorship, housing. He knew it wouldn't be easy. Years of mismanagement and corruption had weakened the nation's foundation. But he also knew that the youth, these returnees, could help rebuild a stronger Burkina Faso. This moment, Ibrahim realized, would be a defining chapter in his presidency, a moment that could ignite hope in the hearts of young people across the country, a chance to give purpose to those who had lost their way, and an opportunity to rebuild a nation with the help of its children, returning home. When the day arrived, for the first group of repatriated citizens to land at Ouagadougou Airport, the atmosphere was thick with emotion. Some were nervous, others quietly hopeful. They had spent years away, some building lives, others struggling in silence. And now, they had returned to a country that felt both familiar and unfamiliar. President Ibrahim Traoré was there to meet them. Not a delegation, not a minister. The president himself. He stood on the tarmac, calm and steady, a symbol of unity and hope. As the young people stepped off the plane, their eyes filled with confusion and uncertainty. But as Ibrahim walked toward them with open arms, his voice rang out with strength and compassion. Welcome home. You are not here as failures. You are not a burden. You are our future. You are our strength. And with your help, we will build the Burkina Faso that we all dream of. The young returnees looked at him, stunned. They had expected cold stares, maybe shame. But instead, they were being embraced. They were being seen, acknowledged, uplifted. Many of you left in search of a better life, Ibrahim continued. And though you may not have found it abroad, you've gained something even more valuable: experience, insight, the kind of knowledge we need to move forward. Burkina Faso needs you. Africa needs you. Some began to cry. These were not the words they had expected to hear, but they were. The words they had longed for, words that gave them hope, a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, and Ibrahim wasn't done. He addressed them all, speaking about the challenges they had faced, but also about the incredible potential that lay before them. Too many African politicians have failed. You have failed all of us, he said, his tone firm and unwavering. They are corrupt, selfish, and have no shame. They steal from our people, leaving us with nothing. But I will not let this happen again. We will work together to ensure that no one has to leave their home in search of a better life. His words struck deep into the hearts of the repatriated citizens. They had lived for so long with the pain of being far from home. But now, standing before them, was a leader who understood their struggles and was fully committed to giving them a second chance. This was not just another round of empty political promises. His actions had already spoken louder than words. Ibrahim Traoré had already taken bold steps to combat the poverty and corruption that had plagued the country for generations. And now, he was giving these young people the opportunity to be part of that very progress. He continued, saying, I promise you, I will work with you to create jobs, to build schools, and to provide health care. You will not be left behind. You will be the leaders of the new Burkina Faso. For the first time in many years, the young people who had returned to their homeland felt a renewed sense of hope. They had come back from a foreign land, uncertain of what their future would hold. And now they were welcomed with the promise of a new beginning. The crowd gathered around him, listening intently, and for a moment it felt as if the entire future of Burkina Faso was resting in their hands. Ibrahim Traoré's vision for the country was clear and unshakable. He believed in the strength and the power of his people, and he had faith that together they could rebuild a stronger and more independent Burkina Faso. As the repatriated citizens began to settle into their new lives, many volunteered to help with local development projects. They used their unique skills and knowledge to help modernize industries and build much-needed infrastructure. Ibrahim kept the promises he made. He ensured the creation of real work opportunities by opening new sectors in agriculture, technology, and education. Slowly but surely, the foundations of a new Burkina Faso began to take shape. It was a country where the future no longer depended on corrupt politicians, but rather on the strength, unity, and talent of its own people. Ibrahim's bold initiative had begun to show its impact. These repatriated citizens were not just returning to a country marked by poverty and broken promises. They were coming home to a land that was being rebuilt, a land where they could live, grow, and thrive. They were no longer the lost generation. They were the builders of a brighter future. And under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso began to show the world that true strength does not come from foreign powers, but from within, from the unity of its people and the courage of its leaders. As the days passed, the repatriated citizens continued adjusting to their new lives in Burkina Faso. Many of them struggled with the transition. They were returning to a country they barely remembered, having spent years, sometimes decades, abroad. Some had been sent away as children, and now they were back as adults in a nation that had changed dramatically. But it was also a country that was beginning to change in meaningful ways they could already feel. Ibrahim Traoré remained fully committed to rebuilding their lives. He had promised them jobs, education, and opportunity, and he made sure to deliver. A few days after their arrival, he organized a large meeting with the young repatriated citizens in a spacious hall. There, he stood before them, determined to outline a clear and compelling vision for the future. You are not just here to fill space, Ibrahim told them, his voice strong and full of purpose. You are the ones who will rebuild this country. We have the power to transform Burkina Faso, but only if we work together. You bring with you the skills, the knowledge, and the ideas that we need to make this country better. The future is in your hands. The young people listened closely. Many had returned with no expectations of employment or opportunity, fearing they would be forgotten and forced to struggle once again. But Ibrahim's words were different. He spoke with sincerity and conviction, not as a politician, but as someone who genuinely believed in their potential. He was not just offering hope. He was offering tools, guidance, and support to help them succeed. As Ibrahim walked around the room, he spoke directly to individuals, looking into their eyes and seeing the spark of inspiration return. Many of them had studied in foreign countries, worked in various industries, and gained valuable international experience. Now they were back in Burkina Faso, finally with the chance to apply everything they had learned. Some would work in agriculture, introducing modern farming techniques. Others would enter the technology sector, helping to bring digital innovation to the country. Many were eager to help improve the education system, using their knowledge to raise a new generation of learners and leaders. To support their efforts, Ibrahim launched a national initiative called Future Builders, a large-scale government program designed to provide employment, mentorship, and resources for the youth of Burkina Faso, especially those who had just returned. Through this program, these repatriated citizens would not only have work, they would have a mission, a purpose. They would become architects of a new era for their homeland, shaping a future that had once seemed impossible. And with that, a new chapter in Burkina Faso's story had begun.